Welcome to your weekly interval. This is the best damn nerd show on the Tenno Media Network, the worldwide leader in all streaming entertainment. Of course. I'm your host, microphone alchemist Bimbo Jimbo. With me tonight, Imperial Commissar Jeff Budd.
I feel we should do this episode with some tea.
You know what? I could go for a refreshing cup of jasmine tea from the Jasmine Dragon. Lore Master Timothy Childs joining us as well.
Hello.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get this episode going. Our main topic tonight will be Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the all-time great animated series, and it just, in my opinion, remains as impactful as ever today as when it came out. But before we get into Avatar, I want to catch up with you guys. And, multiple members of the Nerd Show told me to ask about the exploits of Red Dead Redemption 2 and the Best Damn Nerd Show going online to play this game. Specifically, Tim being a wild card and just really gumming up the works, as it were. But Jeff, as the most experienced cowboy of the two of you, how did it go when with some new recruits saddling it up?
Overall, it went very well. All right, it was a lot of fun. I think it's the most fun I've had on multiplayer so far. No offense, James.
Well, that none taken, because our start was rocky and rough and overly long, and that tutorial was heinous. But we
got a lot done. I was going to say with the group of four, because it was Tim, Davis, John, and myself. And it was the first time I had ever ridden with a posse that size. We got a couple of, the Moonshine missions done for Davis. And then we checked some things off my list, too, which was pretty cool to help my character level up.
Yeah. Okay, so before when you say Moonshine missions, because Davis was talking a big game after one of our last episodes about just having John gather berries for him and stuff like that for the shine. How did that all shake out?
Well, John wasn't gathering berries, but what we were doing was hiding corpses in the mud over in the swamp right outside Saint Denis.
Okay. Tim, what did you think of the shack that Davis had put together?
Yeah. Well, so as you referenced, Davis last episode at the end of it was talking about how glorious of a place he had. And so I was like, Davis, what do you have, like a castle or something? And he goes, well, it's more of like a shack. So I loaded into the game, and Davis is literally standing by a shack with like a pink scarf, and it's in the middle of like a swamp. And he's like, well, that's because there's gator meat down here in the swamp. And so I just start shooting people as they're coming by. And I did not know that you could put them in the water to hide them from people. So, yeah. And as far as Jeff saying that we got a lot done, I remember doing the same mission 3 times in a row and failing it twice. 2 of the 3 times we failed it. So,
well, all right. Fair enough. That's because one time I got booted from it for some weird reason. So then I had to watch you guys finish. I thought you did complete it successfully. You just didn't get credit.
The whole thing,
because I was the one who had set it up.
What was Tim doing specifically? Because I heard that he was going a little rogue at times.
No, dude. I was playing the game. I was playing the game, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, what are you hinting at?
John told me that Tim.
All right, first off, John.
Okay.
John was a bit of a wild card also, and killed my horse.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
So
and was playing bumper like horses with us every time we were riding to another mission because John can't ride straight.
Yeah.
Because his mustache weighs him down.
Yeah.
I was buying ammunition before a mission. I was in one of the desert towns, not Tumbleweed, but I think Amarillo or whatever it's called. I see John's character flying in the air outside the doorway. His horse crashed into my horse, which was parked. He killed my horse. I'm told I can't revive it, so I just run to start the mission, and my horse came back to life, thank God.
Oh, that is lucky.
Yeah, but I just see John just flying in the air.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, Tim, how do you feel about your first experience? Do you like it? What is your thinking?
My thinking is that I would not put Davis in charge again. Honestly, like it was scary. I know it's a video game, but I felt afraid going into the missions knowing that Davis was calling the shots.
Davis was having trouble recruiting us, let alone You're like actually forming the posse.
Yeah,
You didn't know what buttons to push.
No, I feel like what I was promised and what actually came to pass when I played the game are two very different things. Davis was like, we're gonna do moonshine, it's these cool missions, and it just was some dumb bullshit, to be honest.
We blew that shit up.
Yeah, wow.
We also did a lot of like guys riding on the same horse together.
We did do a lot of that.
It was really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Like Tim would be on my
fun.
back and he'd have his gun out, and Rennie, or like when we were riding in the canoe together.
Yeah.
I'll have to saddle up with you guys at some point soon. I still maintain that the story mode is how the game is meant to be played, not the online version.
Well, I mean, we like even numbers, so we're already a group of 4.
Well, I guess we got to kick Davis out then. It's his own shine business. He's
the only one with a real headquarters. I mean, it's more than a shack. It has like an upstairs and a downstairs.
Oh, that's nice.
And he has a French guy working for him. It's a whole thing.
It's pretty weird.
Old lady with a burnt face.
Who's the one? She's like runs the house or something. I was unsure about.
Which is not how he shared it with me. Like he talked such a tough game the first time I played with Davis. It's like, oh yeah, she handles all the bookkeeping for me. And then when we were all in there on Saturdays, like, oh well, she actually runs the show. I got to do stuff for her.
Dude, that's like a Davis trait. Is when you finally like call him out on it, he gets all quiet and he's like, well, she kind of like runs the house and gives me the missions, and it's like, well, Davis, like you knew this the whole time, dude.
That's like when Davis rage smashed the Xbox controller into your guys' coffee table and broke it and tried to blame it on me. A guest in your home tried to blame it on me, and then some sleuth put the Xbox controller handle and it fit perfectly into the indentations. Like, Davis, you did this.
he has a lot of growing up to do. I think we can agree on that.
You're blaming me.
You're blaming me. Between hiding plates and smashing controllers. Well, I'll have to saddle up with you guys next time, but I wanted to make sure that I caught up on your Red Dead Redemption 2 adventures, and we'll do a whole deep dive into Red Dead Redemption 2 at some point on the Best Damn Nerd Show. But the topic tonight, the main topic, is Avatar: The Last Airbender, and there's a lot to talk about with this show. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will start getting into The Last Airbender. More on the Best Damn Nerd Show on the other side. And welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. Bimbo Jimbo here with Imperial Commissar Jeff Budd and Lore Master Timothy Childs. We are talking Avatar: The Last Airbender, the landmark animated series, which debuted on Nickelodeon in 2005 and ran until 2008. And I missed it on its original run. I was not watching Nickelodeon at that time. I would guess that probably, none of the three of us were avid Nickelodeon watchers, maybe from 2005 to 2008. But, so I missed Avatar in its original run. I heard about it. I heard it was great. I didn't seek it out. I didn't seek it out until, Jeff, you made me seek it out. So how did you first get exposed to The Last Airbender?
Dude, I was visiting my parents from school. It was like 06, 07, and I was just channel surfing. And I came across like the intro to the show. And I was like, what is this? And then I saw it was on Nickelodeon. And I was like, what? They're playing anime on Nickelodeon now? What is this all about? And the intro kind of tells you like the overall important part of the story. So you kind of already get a little bit wrapped in. And I watched a part of it and then I had to go somewhere, but I liked what I saw. And then it was like a year or two later, I saw another episode randomly. I mean, it's like I didn't become a fan of the show until after it was canceled, but it was something I was aware of and I liked.
Yeah, and I mean, and once you exposed me to it, I mean, I remember vividly watching it with you the first time and how you were sort of you very much so you curated it for me too. I wanted to binge right on through, but you made me sort of take my time with it a little bit, and I'm thankful for that because it allowed me to sort of really appreciate each step along the journey. I think we went, book by book pretty much in a pretty short period of time.
Yeah. I was visiting you for that spring break or whatever, and I had book 1 with me because I had it before they did the entire series in one box set. So I had each season as a separate box. And so, yeah, we went through book 1. And by the end of that, you were definitely hooked. And then you visited me for Comic-Con, and that's when we went through book 2. And I don't know when we got through book 3, but at some point.
Yeah, it was just a phenomenal journey. Tim, when did you first sort of see The Last Airbender? What was your experience like with that?
Well, I actually watched it as it aired because I was like a junior in high school at that time, and I was watching Nickelodeon. I mean, I was watching like SpongeBob and I don't know, probably a couple other shows on there. So I remember seeing like advertisements for it and getting excited. And I think even like some of my friends were hyped up about it from what I recall. And so yeah, we watched it as it came out, and yeah, it's fucking amazing, you know.
When you were watching as it was airing, I mean, were you aware of just like what kind of a special show it was, or was it just another thing to sort of fill the time?
I think it's one of those shows that is like you don't, well, I mean, you can't really know as a show is airing if it's gonna be good or not, right? I mean, you watch episodes week to week, and so your expectation is tempered by the episodes you've seen. You don't know what's coming. That being said, by the end of season 1, I think that the general vibe was that it was going to get better and better, because season 1 just gets better and better. And so yeah, there was like, I think when season 2 was coming out, there was like a lot of, I remember like being excited for it, you know, like I was like, I can't wait to see where they're going to go next or what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And you know, we're gonna hit on the end of season 1 when we get more in depth about the show and our favorite episodes, because the first season and how it concludes is epic and just, you know, one of my favorite parts of the whole series. But yeah, I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender, it is, to me, as we look back on it now in a retrospective form, it really is a landmark series. And I just wanted to sort of kick it over to you guys and discuss, what do you think it is that makes this show so special in the space that it occupies as an animated series, a quote unquote kids cartoon? I don't know of one that sort of has had this sort of impact and appeal to so many adults that have sought it out, because I'm not unique in the fact that I came to it later in life as an adult and really felt profoundly impacted by it. And I want to sort of point this out too, that this is something I saw pop up actually before we were even planning on doing this episode, but is in 2008, Avatar: The Last Airbender won a Peabody Award. A Peabody Award recognizes distinguished and meritorious public service by American radio and television stations, networks, online media, producing organizations, and individuals. Avatar won this award for multi-dimensional characters, unusually complicated personal relationships for a cartoon serial, and a healthy respect for the consequences of warfare. This makes Avatar one of few animations to win the award and the only one to be cited for its character development. And I think that says a lot about what does in fact make Avatar: The Last Airbender so special. But Jeff, we'll start with you. What is it to you that, I mean, this really is a sort of special, unique animated series?
Well, I mean, I guess at the root of it, it's just a very solid and cohesive story, and it's a story worth telling. I wrote down like a couple of things as far as just what stands out to me that I really like about it. I think it's a great blend of comedic content, but also with the mature content. Excellent world building, because it's just something that the two creators came up with, and it's the kind of world that you want to explore more. There's a reason why there's been the comic books. There's a reason why there's a sequel series. I mean, it's something that people want to continue to revisit. Character progression, kind of like what you were just talking about with that Peabody Award. All the main characters are children of various ages, and even though, I mean, I'm trying to think of how much passage of time it is. I think it all takes place in less than a year, but there is so much growth in like all of the main characters and several of the secondary characters that, I mean, it's worth going on that journey with them. And then outstanding choreography just from the combat perspective. I mean, there's not a lot of cartoons where I feel, it's not that it's graphic, it's just detailed. And I really appreciated that. One of the things that I loved doing when I rewatched the series a few times was they have a lot of commentary tracks in all of the box sets. And just a couple of them actually even has the choreographer himself talking about it. It's just kind of cool to see how much detail goes into everything. All 4 bending styles are a particular martial arts in our world. And so, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just ground up. It's a beautiful show in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think the term beautiful is one that I come back to a lot. It's a beautiful story. I'm glad you said it's a story worth telling. And I think we're going to get into a lot of, you know, our favorite characters and such, but, you know, the hero's journey that they present in this is one of the best, and the voice acting from each character is really just top tier. But Tim, what was it for you that sort of makes this stand out now as we look back on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it like the hero's journey. I think the show appeals to young audiences and old audiences alike because there are some universal truths that are present, like thematically throughout the show, that I think resonate with people, like the hero's journey. It's sort of, and it enters into gray areas too. There's not really a like good and evil. It's the Fire Nation isn't evil. Their leader he's like a tyrant that is ruling over a people, but it gets into the morality of like, what is right, what is wrong. I think these are themes that anyone can connect with. I mean, I remember there was a scene with Sokka where he's like upset that he feels like he contributes nothing to the group, and he's like, oh, you're this wrong. Well, but I mean, the idea is that like you're this powerful person, I contribute nothing. I think that's something that anyone can relate to, and as it turns out, he does contribute. I mean, he grows into a character that can form battle plans, and he gets this powerful sword, and he gets all this training, and so he does have talents. They're latent talents, but it's yeah, I don't know. And to Jeff's point too about the fight scenes, I read that they would film those like martial artists, the different sects of the martial artists, and they would send those over to the post team, who they would literally watch the video of those guys and just like draw that based off what they were doing on the video.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and it shows.
cool.
I mean, you and Jeff are both correct. The fight choreography, which is not usually something that really moves my needle at all, but when done well, you notice it, and
Totally.
this really did it extremely well. All the fights, like Jeff said, the detail is so good, and so you're able to keep the context while you're in this mythological world of what each character is doing and why. I think one of the best examples of that is when we first meet Toph, and we're seeing how she uses the vibrations to earthbend and stuff like that, and the choreography of all those scenes is just really awesome. And right down to the very final episode in season 3, the fight choreography in that episode is insane.
Totally.
We're going to take go ahead,
just really quick, and to that point too, as far as like the detail, I would say like the balance of the show is super fulfilling in a way that like other shows maybe aren't. I mean, there are episodes where you can laugh at the beginning, and by the end of it, you have tears in your eyes. And the very first move that Katara teaches Aang is that water bending move, where you move the water back and forth and create the little wave. That was the very first water bending move he did. So the very final move that he does in the series is that same move. He lifts up that giant wave and puts out all of the fires, and then it recedes. And that's the last bending that Aang does. And the creator of the show, Mike DeMarco or something like that, he said the show at its base is a show about balance, and so he was always writing with that in mind, and the whole team was.
That I'm really glad you brought that up. I actually didn't even really realize that until just now, and I just rewatched it again. That's a very poignant thing that you pointed out there. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad you brought up the balance of it. And the fact that, things that Jeff and I and you and I have discussed over the years too, is that the sort of balance in the presentation of each different group. No one is wholly good or wholly evil.
Yeah.
Iroh is a great character. Maybe the true sort of, outside of Aang, the conscience of the show in a lot of ways. And he's from the Fire Nation. So in certain ways, it's, you look at maybe like Harry Potter with J.K. Rowling and stuff like that. Slytherin was not presented as balanced and fairly as, say, the Fire Nation is here. And that's the real strength of Avatar: The Last Airbender, is that, even in the early going of the show, when Aang is with Zuko and he's sort of incapacitated, Aang's talking about how, one of his good friends was part of the Fire Nation, and he wonders that if maybe he and Zuko could have been friends if things had been different. And so the presentation of each group, even the Earthbenders, which are sort of the supposed, opposite of the Fire Nation in terms of this war, they're not wholly good either. They have some bad stuff going on, and you get into that. So I think one of the words I keep coming back to with Avatar: The Last Airbender is nuance. for a show that is geared towards children, it is incredibly nuanced. And this is something that I'll probably circle back to at the end of the show, is what I was so blown away by was that it doesn't talk down to children. It brings them up. It asks not too much of them, but it encourages them to raise their level and meet this show, and it will meet them halfway, but it's not insulting to their intelligence. And I think that is so needed. And I really do believe that this is a show that, you know, we talk about winning the Peabody Award and everything like that. This is a show that is of the quality and the sort of the content is worthwhile being shown in schools, in my opinion. I think it is that well done. I think it is that good of a morality play that it certainly has. It is meritorious. Is Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you know, bringing up Harry Potter again, and you talk about going from silly to episodes that could make you cry. The one thing that I would ask anyone that, you know, if you seek out this show and you haven't seen it, give it time to get your buy-in. The early going, it is sort of like Harry Potter's early books. It is sort of more childlike, but you give it a few episodes and you allow those characters to sort of hook you, you'll be along for the ride in no time. And it does get very serious. It's dark at times. It's heartbreaking. It's funny. It's all these different things. It really runs the gamut of emotions.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I think if you give it 3 episodes, because that's where you find Monkey Atsu's skeleton.
Yes.
And you see what was the fate of all the airbenders.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 episodes, I mean, if any of them are skewed more kid-friendly, it's definitely those.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I agree. Just give it a few episodes and you will not regret it. Just give it that respect. And I think you would definitely be along for the ride. We're going to take a quick break before we get more into Avatar: The Last Airbender. When we come back, we're going to get into our favorite episodes, characters, quotes, maybe some things that we didn't like, all that and more on the other side on the Best Damn Nerd Show. And welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. We are talking Avatar: The Last Airbender, the acclaimed animated series, not the maligned live-action film, although we will touch on that at some point in a little bit here. But I want to talk about what stands out in the positive first in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And in rewatching the series yet again, I was trying to, narrow down my favorite episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it's really, really difficult to select because so many of them have, things that I appreciate about it and just really, really enjoyed. So I have did my best to narrow down just like the best of the best list, but I want to kick it over to you guys first. Maybe name one, and then you can discuss what you liked about it, and we can add on from there. But Jeff, we'll start with you.
Okay, I kind of broke it down season by season, but I'll name just one episode for season 1, The Storm. And the reason why I like The Storm is it gives you Aang's background before the events of the series, and it gives you Zuko's background. You get to see the origins of his scar, even though it was already sort of hinted at what had happened. You get to see the infamous Agni Kai he had with Fire Lord Ozai. And you get to see more of the crew that's with Zuko also, because Iroh's telling them the story so that they better understand who Prince Zuko is, because he comes off, obviously, as a real entitled prick. But then you see, this 16-year-old boy has like the weight of the world on his shoulders and doesn't have a lot of support other than his uncle.
Yeah, no, I think that's another one that was on my list as well, and it is a sort of a recurring theme in terms of what you see Aang going through and what you see Zuko going through, and the sort of both on their own heroes' journeys, as it were, very different, but they have their similarities. So I love that episode also, and it is, Jeff, you remember when I was watching with you, I had to come around on a couple characters in the early going. Iroh was one of them, and Iroh, and we'll get into this more, by the end, is one of my favorite characters, and this was another turning point episode. Yeah, and you know me very well in terms of what I gravitate towards, and that was another one. Tim, how about you? Do you have an episode from season 1 that you want to point out?
No. Or I don't know. I just kind of put random episodes in here. I don't even know what season they're from, honestly. Is the Puppet Master one?
No, that's season 3. That's late.
Yeah, see, I put them randomly up here as I was thinking of them, so I don't really even have names for most of them. I just like
That's
I have
fine.
like moments down. Well, okay, I like LakeLeoGuy. I know that's season 2, right?
Yep, season 2, because it has to do with the Earth Kingdom Shadow Police,
the Dai Li.
Yeah, and it's kind of the conclusion of like Appa's Lost Days type thing, and there's that.
That's a rough
moment.
arc,
dude. It's super rough, and there's that. I mean, the beginning of that, just like super quick, that episode, The Desert, when Aang discovers that Appa has been stolen, and he goes into the Avatar state, and he's just about to kill the Sandbenders. I mean, he's like about to wipe them out, and Katara like gets through to him, and he ends up just crying in her arms. And then so the conclusion of that being LakeLeoGuy. God, I mean, that scene is so powerful too, because I mean, you like Aang, like very rarely prior to that has broken sort of like his, he sort of walks this line of like he has a philosophy that he sort of abides by. And so it's interesting to see Aang going so far from that he's willing to just kill these guys for fucking stealing his cow. I thought that was pretty crazy. And so then
that's one way of putting it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, LakeLeoGuy, when Zuko is confronted by Iroh down there with Appa, and he's about to like set him free, that's one of those conversations. I mean, and I've done this with multiple scenes in this show where I will just watch them again and again and again over the years. I've done that, and that's one of those scenes where it's just like it's just like it's ringing out, It's like Iroh is presenting him with the honest truth, and Zuko has to like make a decision, and it's one of his many turning points, So I love that. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought up that episode and that scene in particular, because that is one of my all-time favorite quotes from the show. Pretty much almost all of my favorite quotes isolated come from Iroh, and it is in that scene where he is telling Zuko, "It's time for you to look inward and start asking yourself the big question: who are you, and what do you want?" And that is it is one of the very powerful moments in a series of them between those two characters in particular. And just really, Iroh is such a big part of the heart of that show, and it was on display in LakeLeoGuy. That's also the episode where Jet gets killed too, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's where Jet bites the bullet, which is also, that's tough, man. Again, this is a quote unquote kid show, and Jet gets just poleaxed by Longfang. Mm-hmm. And with Toph walking away, and he's lying. He's not going to be okay. Like, that's what lets the audience know, dude, he's dead as Dillinger.
Mm-hmm. Tough. It was originally more graphic, but Nickelodeon said you cannot kill a child on a children's show. We won't allow you. Yeah, we won't allow you to show it. So,
shocking.
Yeah. So obviously they had to change it a little bit, but I mean, yeah, it's not terribly subtle still. That's why they actually it's in the Ember Island Players, the play in the 3rd season in the Fire Nation that basically covers the entire series. The part where Jet dies in the play, and then Zuko goes, "Did Jet just die?" It was a little unclear. And then Sokka's like, yeah, I don't know what happened. And that was the writers taking a jab at how they had to fix the season. Finale for season 2.
You certainly can't blame Nickelodeon for not wanting to have a child killed on screen.
Dude, all right, can we just talk about Jet for a second? And what a great character he is, but also how entirely inappropriate, people could consider him for a children's show. He is a kid. He is completely warped from what has happened with war. He comes from a war-torn country. His parents were killed when he was 8 years old. All of those towns were ravaged. He has become bloodthirsty. He then finally sort of tries to go on a redemption arc, and he's like, you know what? I'm putting the war behind me. I just want to live a peaceful life in Ba Sing Se. Sees Zuko firebend, so he snaps. It's like, there's firebenders in the wall. I gotta kill him. And then he finds out the hard way that the Earth Kingdom government wants nothing to do with the war.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, it is so sad. And Jet is one of my favorite characters.
Jet is also, and again, I think you knew that I would gravitate towards him. He is one of those very cool side characters. Yeah, he's just a cool guy.
So charismatic, and for a non-bender, held his own against both Aang and Zuko very well.
Yeah, pretty badass. Unfortunately, meets an untimely end, but a powerful end nonetheless. And I'm glad he sort of had his own redemption arc. Back to book 1 though, the Southern Air Temple This is an episode rich in lore. Jeff, you alluded to it earlier. It's where you find out what happened to, the airbenders that Aang grew up with, what happened to Monk Gyatso, and you get a lot of lore. And you mentioned earlier the world building in Avatar: The Last Airbender is top notch, and it's on display in that episode. And just for Aang to actually find the skeleton of Monk Gyatso again in a quote unquote kids show was, to me, as I was watching, it's like, dude, they're going there. And to see Aang's reaction going into the Avatar state, and you see this is another through line in the show, Katara being the one to sort of grab hold of him and keep him grounded and bring him back is just another, all those moments are very special. So I love that episode from book one. And then Winter Solstice is another one where you meet Avatar Roku's spirit. It's very, very important episodes. Those Winter Solstice parts 1 and 2. How badass is it when he comes back and it's the spirit of Avatar Roku blowing through those doors and just pushing in the firebenders and stuff. It's just so awesome. Stuff like that I just love.
I watched that this afternoon. Yeah,
it's so awesome.
Yeah, I
dude.
love that.
Yeah, very badass stuff. Let's see. The Deserter is another one. We got to talk about Zhao, because one of the great things about Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's full of great heroes. It's full of fantastic villains. And in book one, Commander/Admiral Zhao is near the top in my opinion, and just a relentless, just complete douchebag villain that his unwaveringness, his willing to sacrifice literally everything to his own ends is he's right in lockstep with Ozai, that's for sure. But what was your thinking on Zhao, Jeff?
Zhao is not one of my favorite characters, but he is probably one of the best characters season 1. He's exactly the kind of foil or enemy you want them to face, especially because Zuko is painted in a rather sympathetic light pretty early on. And there's more to his story than meets the eye. And then of course Iroh, there's definitely more there. I love Zhao's interactions not only against the Avatar, but especially against Zuko. I think Zuko and Zhao are really all the best scenes. Zhao has a tremendous introduction because he has an Agni Kai against Zuko in is that also the 3rd episode? It's the 3rd or 4th episode.
I think
it may be, yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's them recovering from facing off against Aang the first time, and then there's no Avatar interaction, so it's just them at a Fire Nation base. And what's great about it is Zuko, using the basics that his uncle had taught him, actually wins the Agni Kai, but because also the teachings of his uncle, decides not to scar or take that final blast against Zhao. Zhao overreacts, tries to sucker kick Zuko, and that's also one of those secret, the first times you see just how overpowered Iroh is compared to everybody else, just grabs his foot and hurls Zhao. And then that's also where you start to see how Zuko departs from all the other Fire Nation villains. It's like that Iroh's nephew had shown more honor that day than this great commander of the Fire Nation Navy and later admiral.
I mean, is that a lesson that Zuko learned? Should Zuko have blasted him in the face? I mean, that's no. I mean seriously, because that's what an Agni Kai is, right? An Agni Kai is the loser technically can be killed, correct? And there's honor in that, right?
Well, I mean, it's I think it means fiery meeting or something like that, and
but
it's a duel.
I mean, it's a duel. Yeah, it's a duel.
So
I mean, you have to. It's the most dangerous bending style.
That's what I mean. And so when he doesn't kill him, I feel yes, there's honor that he won and didn't do the final blow, but I think there's also a lesson there to be learned, which is that
do the final blow.
Know your enemies. Yeah, if your enemy's on his knees, fucking finish him.
I don't think Tim was really taking the lessons of the Last Airbender here. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
I think Tim is a true son of Ozai and is not heeding Uncle Iroh's lessons.
Not at all, yeah.
I understand why Tim's a big Azula fan now.
No,
Azula would have taken that shot.
No doubt.
I don't know. I mean, they're enemies. I would not have held it against them.
Well, actually, they're supposed to be on the same team.
But they're clearly not.
They were guests of Zhao not long before that.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
I don't know. I mean, I think you should have blasted him.
Yeah, I don't think he should have blasted him, but I'm glad you brought up sort of the interactions between Zuko and Zhao, because the Siege of the North, the season 1 finale is some of my favorite stuff from the show. It ends the first season on such a great note, but you have Zhao, who kills the spirit of the moon brutally, and it's one of the most badass Iroh moments, because you get to see a peek into where his true loyalty lies, which is to balance and to the forces of good. And so you get to see the badass of Iroh. You get to see what an awful son of a bitch Zhao is. But and you get to see how powerful Aang is, and when he really can commune with the spirits and everything like that. And you get to see Zhao. He's in the clutches of this spirit, the
ocean spirit, yeah.
The ocean spirit. And rather than reaching out for Zuko for help, he'd rather just die. The pride of the man is impressive.
Dude, but that scene gave me goosebumps. Like when Aang walks into the water after the fish is dead, and it kind of feels like an all hope is lost type moment. And then Aang walks into the water and then just sort of melts down into it. I was like, oh shit. Like I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps watching it the second time, the first time, and like I've only watched it twice, but like, dude, it's a powerful scene. And then he becomes that giant water creature. I don't know what that is, but dude, yeah, that's a cool scene.
Well, yeah, it's him merging with the ocean spirit, who's what the moon spirit's lover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about when Aang goes into the spirit realm in that episode in general? He meets like that one that's stealing people's faces and
Ko, the face stealer.
Yeah. Oh God. It's
Most
creepy.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
No,
That's
horrendous.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing creature.
Well, the spirit world in general, and one thing that I wish they had touched on more is, and they hint at it, is that Iroh took his own journey into that spirit realm, which is why he could see Aang when he's in there, which I thought was sort of an untapped, unmined little sort of avenue that they could have gone down even more. But that season 1 finale, it's powerful, it's spine tingling, and it's heartbreaking too, because you have Sokka, who not one of my favorite characters, but I do appreciate him more now. But his relationship with Princess Yue, and she has to leave and become the new moon spirit. That's rough, man. I think, as Zuko almost said word for word in the last season.
Yeah,
tough.
he does say that.
That's rough, buddy.
Yeah. So your girlfriend became the moon, huh?
Who hasn't seen that play out, dozens of times?
Yeah.
I don't think Zuko even believed him.
No.
It was rough. But yeah, so that's what I had from book 1. I mean, I could have listed a ton more episodes. As we moved into book 2, we got a very important addition into Team Avatar with Toph, and she comes in the episode The Blind Bandit. And if I had to pick one episode, Blind Bandit might be it, and it's selfishly because it involves an homage to professional wrestling throughout the whole episode. It introduces, Mick Foley voice acts the character of the Boulder, which is a not so subtle imitation of The Rock, speaking in third person, but as an earthbending pro wrestler. It's an amazing episode. Jeff, I know you were waiting for me to get to that point, and I ate it up, man. It was so good.
I was so amped to have you watch that episode, and it went really well. I loved that they had the one heel wrestler who was supposed to be from the Fire Nation.
Yes.
He was like the Iron Sheik, and he was just talking about the Earth Kingdom will be defeated, and he's waving the Fire Nation flag, and the entire audience is just booing him.
Yeah, he asked them to stand for the Fire Nation national anthem. So good, so good. But what did you guys think of the introduction of Toph into the group in this episode and beyond, Tim?
Oh, I love her as a character. I mean, I think she adds like a perfect dynamic to the group. She's a great foil to Aang's like goody two and Katara's sort of like goody two shoes. She walks to the beat of her own drummer, and she's a blind girl that can sense vibrations in the ground and throw rocks at people. I mean, what's not to like,
Jeff?
Toph is an amazing character. She's one of my favorites. It's interesting too, because by the time she's introduced, and she's definitely one of the main characters, that group is already really solidified, and it can be hard to introduce a character that's supposed to take up as much screen time as a Toph that late on and hope that it just clicks and it works, but it does. And she really does kind of balance them out and add something that they didn't have already. And I think what that partly was is like a really accomplished bender to help Aang, because Katara and Aang were learning waterbending together. I mean, she barely was a waterbender when they met, other than that she just instinctually could do it.
Yeah.
Aang obviously is a master airbender, but Toph, other than King Boomy, I would say is the greatest earthbender in the world. And then in a couple years would probably be considered surpassing Boomy.
Yeah, I mean,
just because she discovered metal bending.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that she could metal bend by the end, which, maybe we can get into how you feel about that. It's pretty overpowered, but I mean, I really enjoyed Toph, and your point is well taken in terms of you have a solidified group. You're introducing not a minor character, but a major character into it that's going to shift sort of the power dynamics within the group. And she fit right in. It wasn't like a Scrappy Doo or a new Brady in the Brady Bunch kind of deal. It really, really worked well. And the use of her blindness as a plot device throughout the show was really good. How she used her bending, I loved, and we'll go back to that. The idea of, what earthbending even is on display with its listening and, reacting to that. So Toph was just, I thought, a gift of a character throughout. And, we'll talk about Tales from Ba Sing Se here in a minute, but I liked her little story with Katara and that too. Just even, it's such a funny visual watching her wake up and it's just such a disheveled mess and her hair all crazy going and everything. Like, she's just a really fun, really cool character. I loved how she taught Aang earthbending. She was a very different teacher than what Katara was in teaching him waterbending. And just, she's such a badass little fighter.
Yeah, I was going to say that's also probably the best training sequences for Aang, because it's supposed to be whatever the Avatar's natural element inclination is. That's the one, of course, that they do the easiest. The one that's on the opposite end of the wheel is the one that they should have the most difficulty with, because it just goes against what they are naturally. Where air is obviously very, breezy and moving and compromising and that sort of thing. Earthbending is all very solid and standing your ground, and it's much more forceful. And it just, it's against everything Aang had been taught as a bender, everything he's been taught as far as how he lives his life. And Toph is just an uncompromising teacher who's already so accomplished that, she can teach you at a high level. He's the Avatar. She expects him to automatically be at a high level. So, I mean, it's really throwing him in at the deep end, which I loved, because firebending and waterbending just go with airbending easier.
I love when he finally, it's like, you got the stuff, you can do this. Like, it's just, she's great. She's a great character. And again, her introduction being tied to pro wrestling and the fact that she even wants that pro wrestling belt back, it's awesome. I was such a fan. And the boulder, I wish was in more episodes, because I'm a boulder guy.
But his return was amazing.
His return was amazing.
That was a surprise. You weren't expecting that.
I'm glad that Sokka was so stoked to get the Boulder's autograph. So
I like to think that you and Sokka bonded a little bit with that episode, because Sokka was all in with going to the wrestling show.
He absolutely
He's just a teenage boy. He was eating it up.
He was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm surprised that you don't like Sokka, because I feel like you are the most like Sokka of any character. Like, I feel like you would relate to him on like a deep level.
Other than the ladies' man stuff.
Thank you.
Because Sokka, man. Dude, Sokka's beating him off with a stick. It's ridiculous.
Sokka is ridiculous with the ladies. He's, in that world, he is just unobjectively, the handsome Jeff Budd of the group. So,
Sokka's a good-looking kid. He's smart, like Tim was talking about. He's the tactician. Ends up actually being an accomplished
warrior. I don't know.
warrior.
The librarian had something to say about that.
But he's actually has a scientific mind and helps with the airships and helps. And he helped design the different tanks and stuff.
It's part of his evolution as a character. Like, by the end of it, he is actually designing battle plans that are going to help take down the Fire Nation. I mean, that's why they're giving him a hard time about it. And then he grows and is able to actually contribute.
And he definitely has growth throughout the show. He is. I don't know where you're really getting that I would relate the most to him. I don't find that I have a lot in common with Sokka, to be honest.
You both like pro wrestling. You're both silly. You're both a little goofy but lovable.
Yeah. What else is there? That's
like. I don't know if I agree with any of these assessments. To be honest,
you don't like professional wrestling?
I do like that, so I agree. It's the quenchiest. But I don't know about anything else with Sokka. I definitely. I'm not saying I'm the Avatar, but I loved Aang, so. We'll get into more of that.
Casts himself as the main character.
Jeff, he's not saying he's the Avatar. He is saying he's the Avatar.
Here's the thing about that though, And as we're talking about characters, and a lot of shows like this, the main character is likable just enough, and then I feel like a lot of us will gravitate towards maybe a Sokka type character or a Katara or a Zuko. But Aang is so good. He's such a great protagonist, such a great main character that I would venture to guess that he is a lot of people's favorites, which maybe it sounds counterintuitive, but in my experience, that's rare on a show like that you'll find a lot of people that want to go off the beaten path with who maybe they want to cosplay as or who they really relate to. Aang is infinitely relatable. He is such a well-crafted main character.
He's a little whiny.
What?
He can be a little whiny. I mean, he's 12 years old. He's whiny.
He's a man out of time. I see a lot
like
of
Captain America.
He is like Captain America, and I see. So obviously, I'm going to gravitate towards Aang because that's my favorite superhero, and I think that I don't find him whiny. He has a strong moral code that he keeps to. He has a lot of sadness and heartbreak in him. Going back to the fact that everyone that he has loved up to that point is dead and gone for the most part, except maybe Boomy. Which that was a great reveal.
Yeah, because he decided to flee and ended up getting frozen in an ice ball for 100 years.
Do you not like Aang?
They told him he was the Avatar early, and I mean I don't know if a 12-year-old can handle that responsibility. And then they were going to take him away from Gyatso, who's I mean that's like his father practically, not knowing that he wasn't going to allow that to happen. But and if he didn't run away, he would have been burned to death. And
how about Aang multiple times throughout the show not shying away from that legacy and being like, I left Katara, like this is my fault. He doesn't run away from that. He carries around a lot of guilt. So I don't find him whiny at all. He's an adorable young kid in a lot of senses, but he's carrying the fate of the world on his shoulders. I think it really was just a masterstroke creatively in terms of how they constructed the Aang character. Because again, I do feel like in a lot of shows, the main character, is, the through line, but maybe not everybody's favorite. Like a lot of people like Han Solo, not necessarily Luke Skywalker. As an adult, I've grown to appreciate Luke Skywalker more. And I will say that Aang is my favorite protagonist since Luke Skywalker. I think he is that damn good.
I mean, do you want me to get into this right now? I was going to wait until we were... Okay, I think Aang... Yeah, I think, I agree with what you're saying overall. I think he's a good character, and he does seemingly want to pay repentance for his crimes of leaving the world for the last 100 years.
Crimes?
I'm just kidding. But I think towards the end, they kind of bungled his character in a way with the whole spirit bending thing. No, with the spirit bending. Is that what it's called? When you can bend the life force?
Or energy bending?
The way I look at it is what you're saying is right. Aang is 12 years old, he's a kid, and he thinks and acts like a 12-year-old a lot of the time, and it comes through. He's goofy and he's silly, and he plays games. He's also the Avatar, and he's also an Airbender. But I don't think he doesn't think like the Avatar. He thinks like an Airbender, and he thinks like a 12-year-old, and that comes through in his not wanting to kill Ozai. His whole thing, basically from the beginning, is this cosmic struggle of how am I going to kill Ozai when killing Ozai goes against my beliefs and how I was raised. I'm an air nomad. We're peaceful people. And he questions this up until literally the very end when he goes to the lion turtle and he's still searching for answers, and he's talking to the past avatars, and they are all confirming to him,
murk that fool.
You got to do what it takes. And so Aang is in a moment of desperation is I'll call in an airbender. Surely an air nomad will understand my perspective and offer some sort of advice for me. And the airbender says, basically here, I wrote it down somewhere here. She says, Avatar Yang Chen, she says, your sole duty is to the world. Selfless duty requires you to sacrifice your own spiritual needs and do whatever it takes to protect the world. And right before that, Aang had said, but the monks always taught me to be peaceful. And she says, well, the monks are right, and many monks have achieved spiritual enlightenment and detached themselves from the world, but you can't do that because you're the Avatar, and your sole responsibility is to the world. And Aang leaves that conversation, and he says to Momo, who's standing there, he goes, Momo, well, I guess I do have to kill the Fire Lord. And that leads to him having some strange conversation with the lion turtle, and we're not really sure what happened there, but we think maybe he's going into this battle and he's going to kill him. I mean, he has the tools he needs to kill him, and he's fighting him. He enters the avatar state, and then he leaves the avatar state, and the choice, and then it's clear that Aang has like made a choice. The choice was originally, do I kill or not kill? And now there's a third option suddenly. It's like a Deus Ex Machina at the very end. The third choice. So what I'm saying is, like, Aang never has to make that choice, and his final step to becoming the Avatar is never achieved because he doesn't have to be the Avatar to do this thing. He does this thing as Airbender Aang. So what I'm saying is here. I wrote this down somewhere.
I disagree with the sort of your premise, though, that he didn't have to make the choice. He found an option C after he was resolved that he would have to do it. And, you know, I've heard this sort of the... Go ahead.
But dude, the option C is irresponsible. The option C is a fucking Hail Mary where it's my soul or his soul or whatever. Like if Aang, and he almost lost that. Aang decided that his spiritual soul was worth more than sacrificing that part of himself, stepping into the role of the full Avatar, killing an extremely dangerous man who honestly shouldn't be left alive even without his powers. Just think about his political power that he would still have, although it's kind of a hierarchy based on strength, so that's sort of irrelevant. The point is that
He's a squib now.
Aang refuses to sacrifice his spiritual needs for the world. He doesn't have to, because he takes a super risky gamble where he's like, this untested thing that this giant lion turtle told me to do, which is like, see if my energy can corrupt his energy before his energy corrupts my energy. And if I lose, everyone is fucked. And Aang rolls the dice on that and goes into battle refusing to kill him. I think that's just...
Because...
he does not go into battle refusing to kill him, because there were 2 times where he was going to do it and then decided against it. It was the redirecting the lightning, and he was ready to shoot it right back at Ozai, but then he fires it into the sky. And then the part that you had referenced where he's in Avatar state, he was going to shoot him with all 4 elements, which was kind of cool, but also just sort of funny looking, because then when he shuts it off, it's just like rocks hitting Ozai in the head and getting doused in water. I wouldn't call it terribly risky at that point, because he also does have Ozai at his mercy. He has his arms pinned down and he's like kneeling against the mountain. The soul versus soul, yeah, I mean, it was close. But I mean, was it really a closer conflict than an untested Avatar going against a Fire Lord during Sozin's Comet?
It was, to me, it's the beautiful punctuation on Aang's story. It is, you know, when you hear the quote from the lion turtle talking about an unbendable spirit, is that not the Aang that we have had through the 3 seasons of the show? It is a beautiful coming to fruition, and I reject the notion that he didn't become fully the Avatar. He became one of the most powerful avatars I think that the world had ever seen by doing that, by creating through strength of his own spirit. You know, he found another way, a way that maybe another Avatar couldn't. And when he was like talking to Iroh in the tunnels, and how, you know, he couldn't give up on love and attachment to other people, and Iroh tells him that, you know, things like that are, you know, more important than power. And it's proven out there in that moment. And like Jeff said, he was, you know, came, you know, so close to ending Ozai, but he was able to hold to his code and achieve something even greater. I thought it was really, really powerful stuff. I liked it. And I didn't feel like, could we have had some more hints about the lion turtle planted throughout the series to maybe make it a little bit better? Sure. But I actually really liked the solution that Aang came up with to dealing with Ozai. I thought it was great.
I just wish there was more. I mean, on his face, I don't mind what he did, but I feel like there was no buildup at all to it, and this thing was just presented at the last minute as, like I say, the Deus Ex Machina. It's like this like random power that came out of nowhere that allows him to not kill the Fire Lord. It just feels like a cop out to me, honestly. Well, like it feels like a lame ending, honestly.
Well, I mean, that is kind of a tricky situation. The only problem is, if we knew that this solution existed, everybody would have guessed, oh, well, Aang's going to do that because he's a kid. He's not going to kill him. That goes with his beliefs. That's the perfect opportunity. That's exactly what he should do. I mean, yeah, there's really no right way to do it, because you're right. You can't just have this ability come out of nowhere and then use it last second. But I mean, yeah, I feel they would have been telegraphing their punches too much if they had really planted that as an option.
I think they were trying to do as best they could with the talk about the chakras throughout the series and stuff like that, and blocking those without, you know, giving it all away. Because yeah, if you put it on the table, then people are going to guess that's what's going to do. And it takes away from Aang a little bit that he would come to this sort of option 3 to deal with this. I totally get what you're saying. Again, I would have liked maybe some more Lion Turtle and some sort of maybe allusions to other things. But as it was, I rewatched that finale recently, and it is one of those, hairs rise up thing and like clapping for, go Aang kind of deal. I thought it was really tremendous. And the idea that he's not fully the Avatar in that moment, I completely reject that notion. I mean, God, just the visual of him with, it's powerful. I disagree.
You clapping and going "Go Aang" is exactly what Sokka did in the finale when he saw him from the airship. So that's another thing the two of you have in common.
He was all like,
See, God. I feel like
my space sword.
I actually feel like
sword.
Like sword. I think maybe they could have done better by leaning into the Airbender side of Aang. Like instead of the episode being called Avatar Aang, if it was called Airbender Aang, I think that would
you suck.
Dude, I'm just saying, like, the airbending philosophy is what led him to this point. And so I think
another airbending avatar told him to kill Ozai. So you can't really say that.
She told him to abandon the airbending philosophy, though. She said you have to go full avatar.
And she was an avatar.
Yeah, I would say this, though. I mean, using any philosophy or any style of bending, isn't that what the avatar does? And it's just he happened to dip into what airbending is more about.
Yeah, the avatar represents the harmony and balance, and like the guru says, whatever, the Southern Air Temple, he's like, the greatest illusion is that they're all separate. The avatar is the marriage of all 4 of these things, and I think the avatar has to do. It's like Yang Chen said, you have to do not what's right for your soul, but what's right for the world. That's the avatar represents, like, the world and humanity and like living. And if someone like Ozai, who represents the cosmic opposite of that, which is basically pure evil. I mean, he's the only character in the series that is just outright evil that I can think of off the top of my head, right? I don't know. But like, I think that character dies. I think Aang's ultimate role is to like represent the other side of that and punish it justly, like, and accordingly.
I think the series is dark enough to where you didn't have to compromise Aang's principles on that. I like that he found a way around it. I think it's true to his character. Again, I think it is an excellent ending to the series and to who that character is. I think the idea that you want him to literally kill Fire Lord Ozai means you kind of missed the point a little bit of who Aang even is at all. But Jeff, would you have preferred Aang to kill Ozai?
No, I like the way it ended. Also, there was a long time ago on Facebook where you and I were talking about this, about the finale, James. And then and I commented without sacrificing his ideals. And there was somebody who liked that comment, and I believe his name was Tim Childs.
Wow. Did I really?
Yeah, you did.
Well, he did it without sacrificing his ideals, but that also
exactly, and you liked that.
But that also means he did it without becoming the Avatar. Like, I liked it.
No, that's bullshit. How is he not the Avatar?
He is the Avatar technically, but I think
he's more the Avatar than almost anyone has been. He found it. He found another way. He rose above even their wisdom.
Yeah, but like through technicality. Like I think, like, at the end of the day, if Aang hadn't found the ability, or if Aang hadn't gotten the ability to do that, what do you think he should have done? Do you think he should have killed him, even though that was against his morals? Like, what if he didn't have this third option? Should he have killed the Fire Lord?
Well, I also kind of think about what Uncle Iroh said in one of the finale episodes where they wanted Iroh to go against Ozai, and he goes, no, it can't be me, because then history will look at it that it was just one brother going for a power play to take over the nation. And I just feel like if you look at it where if Ozai was just murdered, or not even murdered, but if he was killed in battle against Aang, it would have just been another time that the Avatar had taken down a despot, no different than like what Avatar Kyoshi had done. Yeah,
but that's literally the Avatar's like function. They keep
the peace. But I do like to think that
keeping a greater peace now that like Jeff's saying, he's not just killing another despot, he's deposing him and installing and working with the next leader to actually create a more peaceful world.
I was going to say it's the only way the Fire Nation can redeem itself is if the next leader of the Fire Nation is then the one who kind of enacts the punishment against Ozai. And that's exactly what Fire Lord Zuko was basically going to do, and he had had that alliance with Aang that then went forward. And then I know you watched a little bit of Korra, and you saw how much of a leader of the world the Fire Nation still was, and that would have been impossible if not for Zuko's leadership at the very end, and then onward after the season or the series.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed that spirited debate. I am a little surprised to hear you come down so harshly on the finale, Tim. I think you have some other thoughts on the relationship between Aang and Katara, but we'll get in that in a minute. I wanted to mention a couple more episodes as we got a little sidetracked there, but the library is one of, again, as a lover of the lore, maybe, this is definitely one of my favorite episodes with Wan Shi Tong, the spirit of knowledge, the giant owl spirit in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Such a great episode. I would, in terms of characters that I would be like in the show, I'm that researcher that just stays behind to read all the books and soak up all the lore. I loved that episode, and that's also the one where Toph has to make the choice to keep the library up long enough for Team Avatar to escape, but the Sandbenders steal Appa. And the episodes without Appa are the hardest of the series, because that's as hard as Aang really gets hit throughout the series, because it is his connection to his past life, and they have such a spiritual bond, he and Appa. It's really, really sad stuff. And you don't get that instant gratification. 22 minutes and Aang and Appa are back together again. You have to wait. They make you earn it. It's sad. And that was some powerful stuff throughout. But I really, really love that damn knowledge spirit is quite literally my spirit animal. All right, let's talk about the tales of Ba Sing Se, because I think if there is one moment from the show that maybe has made everybody who's gotten really into The Last Airbender cry, it's Tales from Ba Sing Se, specifically Iroh's tale, where he goes to celebrate his dead son's birthday and sings Leaves from the Vine. Every time I watch that episode, it is a tearjerker. Jeff, I know it's the same for you, no?
Yeah, no, it makes me tear up almost every time. And then they throw the tribute to Mako at the end of that too. Just a further knife in your side. Just if you were crying already, you're going to be a little upset over that.
And Tim told me something about that I didn't even know, and we'll go back to you in just a second, about the drawing that is ostensibly of Iroh's son is what, Tim?
Oh, well, that's the voice actor as a young man. That's a picture they had of him, I guess, and put it in the show.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Another layer.
What I like about Iroh is every time they reference something from his glorious past. I love the title Dragon of the West. I love them referencing his siege on Ba Sing Se. And then the fact that it was his son's death during that battle, which is what made him finally just give up on the war, completely look at his life and the world in a different way, and just turn his back on everything that he was about before that. I mean, Iroh was never evil, but he definitely was always, before that, he was just another Fire Nation guy. He believed in Fire Nation superiority. He was next in line to be the Fire Lord. He was not ruthless, but an efficient military leader. I mean, he's responsible for a lot of bad things that happened to the Earth Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Iroh, I guess we should take a moment to focus on him just as a character right now, because he is one of the best, most well-done characters in the whole show. And I love just going back and rewatching it now, and you can see the strings of how he's trying to really help Zuko. He's not this bumbler. He is trying to keep the reins on Zuko just enough, knowing that the Avatar's return is actually a good thing for the world. I love the reveal in season 3 when the Sunbenders or whatever they were called.
The
Sun Dancers.
Yeah, those Aztec firebenders.
Yeah, and the two dragons, the dragon that Iroh supposedly killed, he didn't kill. He learned from them and said that they were dead to protect them. And just like, what a great character arc. His love of tea, he has his silly moments. I love how he was feeling the bounty hunter too, So he had
good on you, Iroh.
Absolutely. Little hound. But he also just had some of the, again, as we have alluded to, some of the best quotes from the show, whether it's him singing "Leaves from the Vine" or talking about Zuko needing to look inward, but to even just ones that when he's getting his tea shop and he's like, "Follow your passion and life will reward you." That is something that I inherently believe in my own life without having to have Iroh tell it to me. But hearing it in the show, it is just so cool that you have a character with that kind of depth to it. But I think maybe outside of him singing "Leaves from the Vine," when Zuko comes to apologize to him late in the series, and he says, "I was never angry with you. I was sad because I was afraid you lost your way." That again is another one of those every time, like, just very emotional moments. He and Zuko, I think, induce more tears than anybody on the show. But Jeff, what is your overall take on the Iroh character?
Iroh is either my favorite or my second favorite character. It goes between him and Zuko. Those are my two favorites, and it's because they're so interconnected. Iroh is such an outstanding character. I love him as the old mentor. He's one of the first characters I actually ever saw on the show, because one of the episodes I saw, it was a clip of Zuko and Iroh when they were in Ba Sing Se, and they were talking about the Avatar. I knew nothing about the show really at that point. I was just like, oh, whoa, who are these two guys? I was like, they're definitely not a part of the evil team, but the past rival of the Avatar, and that must be his teacher. I was like, I want to know more about these two. I was like, what happened to that kid's face? No, Iroh is so rich. He also, I mean, we haven't even talked about it yet, but as far as like the Lotus Clan, and it's just that secret society of,
the Order of the White Lotus.
Yeah, Order of the White Lotus. All the best old man characters just happen to be members of that group.
Hell yeah.
And then, like, you had already hinted at it as far as like with the dragons and that he had kept it a secret, and just all the cool little things that Iroh kind of was doing throughout the entire series. He was another one of those characters, like, it was Iroh, and honestly it was Sokka, because you didn't like either one of them. I would always watch scenes and kind of look at your face, James, to see, is he starting to get this guy? Is he becoming a fan of it? What's going on? But yeah, Iroh always makes me want to watch the show.
Yeah. Tim?
I mean, I agree. Iroh is, in a way, he's kind of like this Gandalf-esque sort of like Merlin type figure that's like always there for, I feel like he has run-ins with like almost all the major characters at some point, and he's sort of like with Aang in the cave at their like lowest moments. Iroh is sort of there to like guide them through with Toph Toph when she leaves the group, right?
Toph is what Chris Davis tries to call himself.
Yeah. Well,
Toph, it's in our group, not theirs.
Although I do think both would be Earthbenders, but we'll get into that later on.
Because whenever I see her name, whenever I see her name, I think Toph because of fucking Chris, but it's so Toph. But no, it's when she runs into Iroh and he's like, "There's nothing more pleasant or whatever than tea with an interesting stranger," or something like that. And he's just sort of there for the characters when they need him the most. I feel like he was a driving force behind a lot of the plot behind the scenes too. I mean, he gathered the White Lotus people together and took back Ba Sing Se. I love that line where he's like, I once thought it was my destiny to conquer Ba Sing Se. I now see it's my destiny to take it back from the Fire Nation.
Yeah,
I was like, man, that shit, dude, that's so good.
Well,
And he burns that Fire
him
Nation
burning
flag.
the Fire Nation flag on the castle.
So
what a great completion of that story.
Totally.
That is just that's the kind of stuff that, again, this show rewards you. It pays off those storylines. Whereas, I'm not trying to hate on Harry Potter because I am a fan, but it's like we never got Lupin versus Fenrir. Like, if those characters existed in Avatar: The Last Airbender, we would have gotten that showdown, and it would have been awesome. And again, Iroh sort of coming full circle with Ba Sing Se is like, that's emotional in its own right. He's such a great character. Zuko, who is obviously tied to Uncle Iroh, maybe the most complex character in the show, certainly beloved. Rufio voice acts him. Is he the best character in the show, Tim?
He's like the fan favorite. I think there's something to Zuko where he's easy to like because he's not fully evil. I don't think he ever really does anything where that makes you hate him. He's on the wrong side for a lot of it, and he doesn't fully understand his own motivations or like what he's about. And I think that makes him relatable to a lot of people as well. And I think that like you know, he is a prince. He's a prince of the Fire Nation, and so like that struggle, like he has a lot to lose. You know, it's not just like he's hunting the Avatar. I think like he wrestles with big. He wrestles with big questions for like a 14-year-old or whatever, and so.
Well, he's got to ask the big questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think his arc, in my opinion, is the best arc. You know, I think his transformation is the most complete at the end. That's
Jeff,
what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, other than Iroh, Zuko's my favorite main character. I think he's outstanding. I loved following his journey. Another thing I liked about the show is just how much the characters actually change in appearance from season to season. And Zuko had, you know, his top knot in the first season, but I like the clothing change. I like seeing him through, you know, different progressions. One of the episodes I wanted to mention from season 2 was Zuko Alone.
I had that down too.
Yeah, where he was separated from Iroh. It's like an old Western. He's helping that poor town from, I think it is Earth Kingdom soldiers who are shaking them down. It's protection money. So that is one of those examples where you get to see, the Earth Kingdom isn't all good and the Fire Nation isn't all bad. And then it's revealed because Zuko, being outnumbered, had to use his firebending to get out of there. They saw that he was a firebender, and the people that he was helping were not grateful because they were conquerors.
Yeah. Zuko, I do. I mean, he is one of my favorites. I like that you bring up sort of the evolution, even just in his appearance throughout the show. In terms of an appearance evolution, I never liked Aang with hair. I gotta say that it was not Aang with hair was my least favorite Aang in the show. I get why I did it, but just never, not a fan.
Dude, I was thinking the other day, like, you know how he goes to school for like a week or whatever?
I love that.
Like, imagine the stories that the kids told after he left that school. This random fucking kid shows up. He steals the most popular kid's girlfriend, hosts a giant dance party in a cave, and then walks through a wall to leave. And they never see him again. They must be like, what the fuck just happened?
Kid's a legend at that school.
Dude,
legend.
They must talk about him every day.
Oh, this is why we have Tim on the show, for perspective like that. Okay, how about Katara? What did we feel about her? I really loved her influence on Aang, beyond just the straight up romance of it all. But again, when he was in those darkest moments, just her ability to soothe him was just very poignant stuff again. But Tim, we'll circle around to you next. But Jeff, how did you feel about Katara?
Well, I mean, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way because it's more than that, but she also played such a solid support character, not only for Aang, but then she's there at the season finale, or the series finale, excuse me, to help Zuko face off against Azula. And in fact, she's the one who asked to defeat Azula because Zuko kind of screws up he sacrificed himself so that she would be saved from the lightning. She's really good at backing people up. What I like about her dynamic with the rest of the group, especially in the first season, is a lot of times she gets to be the most grounded one. You know, Sokka's the most comic relief, but Aang, of course, is silly. And then Aang is doing all the Avatar stuff. She's the one who kind of holds it all together, kind of like, the Den Mother type thing. And then, of course, I know it was like a very big deal as far as everything that happened with the Northern Water Tribe, especially when she faces off against, what is the instructor's name?
Oh,
Waterbending Master.
I don't know.
Well, when she actually confronts him and the two of them have like a mini battle, and the part where she goes like, "You can't knock me down," it's like, I know that got a huge pop from a lot of fans.
Hell yeah!
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. That was a great fight scene too. But and then also getting to see her progress, because with Aang, at least he was always a master airbender, and then we just watched the rest of his bending progress. She could not even make a wave in the first episode, and then you see what she defeated Princess Azula in the last episode. I mean, that's insane, everything that she was able to do. And then like her healing abilities, all of that. I thought it was really awesome. Totally.
She, by the end of season 1 is a master airbender, a master waterbender, and is teaching Aang. Yeah, her power level increasing. It's gradual. It makes sense. It's really badass, the stuff that she can do by the end of the show, and just the really creative ways that they use the water bending. I mean, you could argue that if you bring that gnarly ass blood bending into it, she's maybe the most powerful bender there is, which That bloodbending is rough.
Dude, when she was using it in the Southern Raiders episode to get revenge against the guy who took her mother, oh my god, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and think about the implications of bloodbending. Like, you could just stop their blood flowing if you wanted to. You could literally just control them and then just stop their blood moving, and they would just fucking die. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, like you said, the implications of that. What'd you think of Katara, Tim?
I like Katara. I mean, I think like she's a great character. She has a great dynamic in the group. I didn't like I felt like the romance between her and Aang was honestly like a little forced. Like, I don't think there was ever even a moment where she fell in love with Aang. It felt like it was very one-sided the entire time to me. And in fact, the one time Aang tried to kiss her, she rejected him. And I felt like throughout the series, we met no less than 4 characters that Katara had better on-screen chemistry with. Shall we name them? Jet, Zuko, that guy from the Earthbending Nation that they meet and she helps rescue. Yeah. And then here, maybe I might have written one more down.
And Sokka, weird brother-sister relationship.
No, that might have been.
They did play husband and wife when Aang was going to school.
Game of Thrones.
I'm just saying. I feel like the very last scene when those two were standing on the balcony looking out, and the show kind of ends. It pulls away, and then it pans back in, and the two of them. It's almost like someone is like taking them. Rewatch this scene. It feels like someone is taking them and pushing them together and being like kiss.
No.
And I don't know, dude. I just feel like that romance should have been fleshed out better or cut out completely.
Secret Tunnel. That episode, the chemistry was all over the place, man. It was great.
There were a couple of times where I feel like they were hinting at it throughout the series. And as far as Jet goes, everybody had chemistry with Jet. I mean, that's just Jet.
Yeah, guy's awesome.
Everybody but Sokka. I mean, Aang was hero worshipping him, and Aang is the Avatar.
Yeah, Jet's the equivalent of Justin Timberlake's character in Social Network. Just being like, drop the, just Facebook. It's cleaner. Sokka's like Eduardo.
Sokka didn't want to be at that dinner. Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
Jet's late.
No more apple teenies. It's not the quenchiest.
I feel like Aang should have either gotten with Toph or
Toph!
not Katara. Or Toph. Sorry, I picture the word
Or
in my head.
Katara, yeah, ended up with Katara.
No, I said or not Katara.
Oh, okay. What about that little weird girl that had a crush on him in the fortune teller episode?
No.
I mean,
She was all about
Absolutely
Aang. She was all about
Absolutely
Aang.
not.
That's actually an episode that kind of hinted at the relationship between Katara and Aang as far as that she was destined to be with a great defender.
Yeah.
Because-
But like,
Because I don't think Katara and Zuko had that much chemistry. That Earthbender guy, definitely. The one whose dad was in prison.
Yes.
And then he came back for the Eclipse battle and stuff like that. And then, Jet, but then Jet died. So if she didn't end up with Aang, she had to end up with that Earthbender kid.
well, originally the writers had written Katara and Zuko together, and they changed it.
That's so weird.
I don't know. I felt like the thing with Aang was weird. I felt like he's a little boy and she's a little girl, and like what? Like he's 12
100 years old.
Yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like I just felt like Aang has bigger fish to fry, and this whole thing felt shoehorned into me. I don't know.
I thought they were hinting at it from the very beginning, right from when Sokka, was sort of almost referring to them as being sort of cute and coupley kind of deal. And I think the first or second episode, somebody referred to, I think, Aang as her boyfriend or vice versa there, or something like that. The hints were there. What I liked about it is that they didn't focus on it the whole series. I thought it did feel organic. It was like, this is clearly what we're building to, but we have bigger stories that we're dealing with, and we're not going to sideline the entire sort of narrative to, force this romance in there. I thought the romance felt very gradual. I like Aang, kissing her, before that first invasion that didn't work out. And I thought the payoff at the very end was, dude, that's what you play the hits. That's what we wanted to see.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
Jeff?
like, I'm fine with it.
No, I mean, I thought the kiss at the end was to make sure that there was no ambiguity, that it's like they do end up together. They wanted it to be final. They didn't want it for the audience to leave it up in the air and guess.
That's the reason for that, Jeff, is because it was so goddamn ambiguous that no one could tell what was going to happen. They couldn't tell if she was going to be like, actually, we're cousins or something like that. Like, I would believe that.
God damn it.
Well, and the thing is, like, I came late to the game, and it's like I wasn't a fan when the series was going on. So it was like me looking back, I found out like what a big deal it was as far as Zuko Katara shippers and Aang and Katara shippers. and I was watching footage of when they did the season 3 premiere like trailer at Comic-Con, and every time Zuko and Katara were shown together, like this group of girls would scream. Every time Aang and Katara were together, a different group of girls would scream. Every time Sokka showed up on screen, everybody's screaming. All the girls screaming, James. They love him.
Yeah, he's a Jeff Hardy.
And same with Toph, because Toph is just
all the screams for Sokka, notably more high pitched and just skewed younger and girlier fans. I get it. You know,
sorry that you don't get it, William Regal, but some of us do. All right, Sokka puts asses in seats.
Sokka's a chick magnet. I get. Well, let's talk about Sokka. You know, I get the appeal of him. I do. He just wasn't my cup of jasmine tea. I prefer his girlfriend Suki. Jeff, what do you think about Sokka?
I like Sokka a lot. I also like that he's not a bender. And so we got to see one of the main characters not rely on bending. But that doesn't mean that he can't contribute in a fight. We talked about the sword training a little bit that he received in season 3. What I also like is every time they went to like a new settlement or society or something like that, he was kind of picking up on fighting techniques from whoever was there. And he's a quick study. He's actually a really talented fighter. He just doesn't have the bending ability of his sister. So it's like he was learning from the Kyoshi warriors. He was training with the warriors in the Northern Water Tribe. He had the firebending teacher, or not firebending teacher, but in the Fire Nation, he had the sword master teacher. Like all of that was excellent.
His sword teacher is one of my favorite side characters, by the way.
Who was his?
Oh, totally.
His appearance was based on the choreographer of the series,
which is
really
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then voiced by T-1000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Such a great character. But Tim, what'd you think of Sokka?
No, I really like Sokka. I think he kind of is like the realist in a group full of like spiritualists or something like that. Like everyone in his group is a bender, and they're all kind of like in touch with this other self. And Sokka is very much, he's like a human. He's just like a human being, and he like is what he is. And he's innocent in a lot of ways, and he's like vulnerable, but he's also like, I don't know. He's kind of like, he's dumb and he's smart. He's like there's like a dichotomy within Sokka that the others don't really have to like face necessarily on a daily basis. I mean, like when Sokka goes to the fortune teller, I love the line that she says to him. She says something and she's like, and you're going to face a lot of like strife or like hardship, mostly self-inflicted. And I love that line because it's such, and you know, in spite of that, he sort of overcomes himself in a way. And yeah, he does. He trains and he gets a sword that's made from like a meteorite, which he then promptly loses.
My space sword.
He never gets that back, I don't think. He just chucks it and it's gone.
Well, that was like the last battle, so
yeah.
I don't know if they ever revisit that. Probably not.
No.
I do like that moment he and Toph share, though, when Sokka says, I think this is the end. You know, I don't think my boomerang's coming back kind of deal. That's about as real as he got, you know, and or as serious as he got in the whole series. And even with Toph with tears coming down her eyes is pretty powerful stuff. I mean, Aang, you know, we'll end this segment that Aang is my undisputed favorite character from the show, and a show full of great characters. You know, we barely touched on Azula, great villain, Ozai, same, voiced by Mark Hamill. But I wanted to end this segment with this quote from the Lion Turtle that sort of harkens back to what we were discussing with the end of the show and why I think what Aang did works so well. It's the quote that says, the Lion Turtle says, the true mind can weather all the lies and illusions without being lost. The true heart can touch the poison of hatred without being harmed. Since beginningless time, the darkness thrives in the void, but always yields to purifying light. And that quote to me is the essence of why the end of the show worked for me, because that's what Aang did. He didn't let the illusions cloud his mind. He didn't let the hatred taint his heart, and he didn't let the darkness thrive in the void without the purifying light. And I love Aang's hero's journey and his arc. It just, to me, was so powerful. We are going to come back and we're going to touch on Legend of Korra. We're going to touch on the live action movie. What did you guys think about that? We're going to talk about where perhaps The Last Airbender can go now and more on the other side with the Best Damn Nerd Show. Welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. We are talking Avatar, The Last Airbender. And we talked about a lot of the great things about the animated series and just what a sort of how much that made us feel, how much we loved it. I want to touch on the follow-up series because it was so well received that it got a sort of rare sequel animated series, The Legend of Korra. And Jeff, I want to start with you in terms of what you thought about Legend of Korra, because it's what you thought about it. The person that introduced me to Avatar: The Last Airbender, that is why I have not delved into the Legend of Korra. So what was wrong with Legend of Korra?
Well, Legend of Korra was also premiering like right as I was becoming a huge fan of Avatar. I think I had like just finished the series. My girlfriend at the time was also a huge fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, so we were stoked and we watched it like when it first aired, and we both kind of had the same attitude. The art is amazing. It's definitely a step in the right direction. It's progressed. The story itself, and I only watched the first season. I watched the entire first season, but I just had no desire to continue with the series. I'm glad that it did at least have an ending in case you were a fan. I just thought the story was kind of blah, and the setting was kind of, nothing as well. The fact that, the technology and everything is a little more progressed in that world. I didn't like the automobiles. I didn't like what the city looked like. I never really even got into Korra that much. I didn't like her personality. There was too much of the first season, which was really all related to sports, and her with this firebender guy and this earthbender guy, and then she was like the waterbender on the team. But because she's the Avatar, it's a bit of an advantage for that team because she can do any of the bending. And then also like the main bad guy of the first season, his ability was to take away people's bending. And Korra had like this speech where she's like, "You can't take away our bending. Bending is fun." And I was like, is that really the message that we got from the first season? Is just that bending's a blast and we're all having fun here? I mean, I feel that it's a little more than that. And I don't know. Overall, I just felt like, even though it's a lot of the same writing talent and everything like that, tonally, the shift is just too much for me.
Yeah.
Tim, did you feel the same with that?
Yeah, I felt the same. I was thrown by the setting first. I didn't like the city. I was just turned off by that in sort of a general kind of way. I just didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I read a good quote somewhere that said like, the last Avatar is about a human learning to be the Avatar, and Legend of Korra is about an Avatar learning to be a human. And I think like that, I remember like her arrogance turning me off as well, because it was so different from Aang's approach to being the Avatar, which, as much shit as I talk on Aang, I love him as a character, and like as the Avatar, I feel like going from an Aang type character as the Avatar, who's so endearing and there's so many qualities about him that you want to emulate in your own life, whereas Korra, I don't feel like there's anything about her that really like resonates with like I don't think she's a great leader, and from what I don't know, I just didn't think she was like as dynamic as Aang in a lot of ways.
Well, and I mean, even without having seen it, the on the very face of it, an Avatar learning to be human and being arrogant, what the beauty of Aang is that accessibility, that relatability, that I think a lot of people he's that window into the show and everything like that. Even with having that immense power, he doesn't fully know how to understand it yet, and he is just very, very humble in so many ways. So yeah, I have not sought out Legend of Korra. There's been a bunch of times where I've thought about it, and maybe I'll dip a toe in and see what it's all about. But my worry is I don't want it with anything that follows up on a fandom or a series or any sort of thing like this that I hold so dearly, is I don't want to watch something else that builds off of that don't sullies my opinion of the former or damages it in any way. Guys, I mean, you know how I feel about so much of the Star Wars stuff. So I don't want to go down that road again by, seeing something that I can't unsee. I do think it's cool knowing that, you get sort of some more lore about what happened to Aang and Katara, and the fact that he appears and, mentors, Korra in the show and everything. That all sounds awesome. But I just am trepidatious of actually watching it, because in case if it's really bad, I don't want it to affect how I feel about the Last Airbender series. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. We are talking Last Airbender. There was a live action movie. Jeff and Tim were very excited for this live action movie. How did you feel about it? Jeff, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so when they started promoting that movie, I think I was still living up in SF, and Tim and I at the time were the only ones in the group that were Avatar fans. And so the two of us would just sit and talk about it, as far as like what we were hoping for, what we wanted the special effects to be, what kind of things we wanted to include in the story. the way it was presented to the public, and I think what M. Night Shyamalan's plans definitely was to make it a trilogy. Each season or each book would be its own movie, which that's a lot of content, but it's not impossible, especially like with Lord of the Rings. It's like you could potentially do it that way, and I think that is the right way to handle it. We never got those other two movies because the first one turned out to be such a disaster. I remember I went with my girlfriend at the time and then this other couple that we were friends with, and we were talking up to Avatar: The Last Airbender so much. And before we went to the movie, we even watched the first couple episodes of the series, hoping that they would also then get into the cartoon, which luckily, after they saw the movie, they still wanted to give the cartoon a shot, thank God, and did love the cartoon. The movie was so bad, and we could talk about why in a second, but I remember at one point I was just so embarrassed that I had brought other people to go see it that I was just looking at my shoes and I was waiting to leave.
Oh.
And that is not what I wanted from my Avatar movie going experience.
Yeah, well, because Katara does like VO for a lot of it, right? If memory serves. Katara's like VO filling the story in, because so what I heard is that like a few weeks before the movie was set to be released, it was decided by the powers that be that it was going to be released as a 3D movie, and that involved cutting like 30 minutes out of the movie, and which was like major plot holes. So they read in this Katara VO to fill in those holes. So you had people like reacting to things that had happened off camera that didn't make any sense, and Katara's like trying to fill these holes in. I don't know, man. I think I wrote this Roger Ebert quote down. He wrote,
Never heard of him.
The Last Airbender is an agonizing experience in every category I can think of, and others still waiting to be invented.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, if a fireball hits anything in one of those movies, it does not set it on fire. That's for goddamn sure.
Yeah, I remember this was like during that era where they were trying to have a 3D component for every movie to sort of boost ticket sales because they have to charge more for those. And yeah, it was like, if you go see it, does that mean that the fireballs with the firebending come flying at you? And I was like, I've never really been into 3D movies, so I thought the whole thing was just stupid as shit anyway.
It's a gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. It's a gimmick, and I think it was a very blatant gimmick at that time, and it looks like Hollywood shied away from that, fortunately. But yeah, it was prevalent back then.
Jeff saved me from watching it. So
don't watch it.
What did they manage to get across in terms of the plot of this movie? What did they get anything right?
Well, I mean, get right is kind of a tricky situation because there's a couple of things that they did that I just didn't really like. One was the firebending power change, where it's more like pyro. All they can do is shift and move fire. They don't generate their own fire. So like the Fire Nation, their enemy, like they would always come marching in and they would have like these piers and stuff like that and torches, and then they would use that against them. And then it was hinted at that there were a few firebenders that were so talented they could generate their own fire. So then, like at the end of the first movie or the end of the movie, when Iroh kicks everybody's ass for killing the Moon Spirit, they all start flipping out because Iroh is generating his own fire. But it's like, why are we even doing this? Like, there's so much that we have to include in this movie. Why are we generating this entire other friggin' sub story that doesn't matter? I also think just poor acting. None of the kids were really that great. None of the characters are awesome. I mean, I'm glad that they all kind of looked like they were supposed to, but other than that, like, you got to give me something. So there was nothing there. And then, I mean, just the whole thing was kind of bad. I think the guy who played Zhao kind of acted like Zhao, so maybe that was the best thing about it. And then the guy who played Iroh was the scientist in the cave who helped Iron Man create his first armor in the first Iron Man film. And like, I like that guy. And it's like, when I heard that he was going to play Iroh, I was like, well, he's got the right temperament for it.
Man.
So he was,
sorry.
No, that's good.
Different ways, folks.
So like, he wasn't too bad, but I mean, and there were a couple of times where they definitely were trying to play like, oh, is Iroh just like a lazy old man? But I don't know. It just doesn't come off as charming as it does in the TV series.
No, I mean, I agree. You said it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, and
I have only seen it once.
it was one of those experiences that I just regret. I wish it had never been made once I saw it. You know, I was just,
which is so sad.
yeah.
And I mean, I kind of feel bad for M. Night Shyamalan too, because I know he was a big fan of the series.
He still defends it to this day.
Yeah, and that's why my sympathy for him to a certain degree is curbed, because it's like, come on, dude, you gotta own it. You gotta own that was not a good movie.
Yeah,
and it was just not a good outing for it. It wasn't a good representation of the film or of the series.
Do you think that a live action movie, a reboot, is a good idea? Do you think it's just something that maybe doesn't work live action, and that's perfectly valid as well? You know, not everything translates to live action and has that, as you said, that same charmingness to it, which is very prevalent in The Last Airbender. Do you want to see another attempt at a live action movie, Jeff?
I mean, that's kind of tricky. It depends on what kind of kid actors you get for the parts. I do think special effects wise, it would look beautiful with the bending and everything like that. Can it be done? I still want to say, yeah. Should it be done? I'm fine with them not revisiting it. I like the story and everything just as is. I would probably check it out if they did it, though.
Yeah. Tim?
I mean, yeah, like I think I don't know if they should, but if they did, I agree, I would go see it, because I think that the story, the foundation is so solid. There's so much source material to pull from. If you're going to make one movie per book, there is so much depth to pull from, where you don't have to, like Jeff pointed out, like make up the fact that people can just, like, some people can firebend and some, or from nothing, and some people can't. Like, you don't have to do bullshit like that. You can actually make this. Yeah, I mean, I think anything can be turned into anything else, and it can be good. I think it just has to be the right circumstances to make that thing good, and while still being, like, carrying on the spirit of what the original thing was, which is what we all love in The Last Airbender. You know, I think there's no reason they can't do it. Just get Peter Jackson on it.
Well, that's a good point. I do think that it's sort of at a disadvantage, because you are going to have to involve child actors in a lot of it. You know, not small children in every case necessarily, but Aang, your main character, is a young boy, and that's tough. It's kind of a crapshoot with kid actors, to be honest with you, to find ones that are really good. So that to me, just on the face of it, is a more difficult sell in terms of your main character. It's hard to determine what you're going to get.
And then add on to that, they also then have to look good doing the martial arts.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's sort of a level of buy-in there that is difficult in my estimation. But beyond a live action film, you know, what do you want to see from Avatar: The Last Airbender, from that fandom, from that mythos? Do you want another sequel series? Do you want a prequel series? Something that I've thought about, I would rather leave the show alone and get a Knights of the Old Republic style video game. For those of you not familiar with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, it is an incredible Star Wars RPG experience set way back in, you know, Star Wars history, when the Jedis were, you know, still very, you know, relevant and plentiful. And, you know, you go around, you know, from planet to planet, you know, solving this sort of intergalactic plot to, you know, dominate the galaxy. Who doesn't love that? But if you set this in sort of, you know, the Avatar Last Airbender world's past, I think you could do some pretty cool stuff with that, where you're learning, you know, your character that you take around learning different bending techniques. And it's set up for that style of RPG, because you meet different characters along the way. And actually, Jade Empire, which was done by Obsidian as well, they did Knights of the Old Republic. Jade Empire is sort of like an Avatar game. Like, you learn sort of, there's fire techniques, there's techniques where you shoot rocks and stuff like that. So it is Avatar similar, but it's, you know, it's in its own world, criminally too short and so abrupt. But that's what I kind of would like to see. Jeff, do you have anything that you would like to see in the Last Airbender world?
I kind of would like to see maybe like a quality role-playing game, like a Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, where you can do it in that world. I think there might be a little bit of information like that out there, but not much. I think most people are just kind of tailor making their own. It's like, it would be really cool to do something like sponsored by Nickelodeon, so it has all the information in it and all the lore. I also, because each season is broken up into books, I wouldn't mind them actually just making novelizations of every season, and every episode is like a chapter or something like that. Would be kind of cool to have on a bookshelf
Yeah.
And then I don't know, maybe like bring back the action figure line or something like that. There's so many characters they could do a lot of things with. It's like I would like something like that.
Yeah, that would be
Totally.
very cool. Tim?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see another video game for it that's sort of more up to like current standards. I think the trick with making a video game for something like this is that the video game kind of like, because it's a cartoon, so I think the video game kind of has to feel like the cartoon in a lot of ways, like the play style and the look of it, and I think that can be difficult to pull off. I don't think it's impossible, but yeah, I mean that's what I'd like to see.
I think a lot of the DBZ games they could draw
Totally,
from
dude.
some of that stuff to
Yeah.
Yeah.
really capture sort of the fighting feel of it, you know, because
Yeah.
there is some similarity I feel like there that they could draw from that would really sort of hit those Last Airbender vibes kind of deal. What you'd run into is that, look, not everybody can fly if you can't airbend and stuff like that, but there's ways around that. I want to have some fun. What kind of bender would you be? This is, similar to, when people fantasy book themselves into, what Harry Potter or Game of Thrones house they would be in and stuff like that. But what kind of bender would you be? I guess I thought about this a little bit, knowing who was going to be on the show tonight. And, in thinking about it, I'd love to say that, I'd be like Aang and be an airbender, but I don't see myself that way. I definitely think that I would be an earthbender. That's more sort of just my style. The things that Iroh talked about in terms of what is important to them sort of spoke to me more so than any of the other ones. Jeff, you've always struck me as somebody that would be a firebender, and I think you would like. I think that's where you would want to be too, and I think it suits you, and I think you would be a great heroic firebender. And then Tim. I was disheartened to hear you crapping on Aang so much, because I think, in no uncertain terms, Tim, I think you are an airbender. You go with the wind. You can change course on the drop of a dime, and you have a lot of freedom to you. But that's just sort of what I took from it on the face of it. But Jeff, what is your thinking on that?
I gave it a lot of thought, and I have for a few years. Every time I watch the show, I kind of think about it too. Of all the bending styles, the one I would want to do the least is firebending. I find it to be the most limited. I think it's really. I kind of have the same attitude towards firebending as the general who deserted. That it's really just more a destructive force. It really just has like one purpose and nothing else to it. I would want to be an earthbender. I think it's basically because of Toph and all of the things that she accomplished on the show. It's like I kind of want to do that. One sequence we didn't talk about, but that I absolutely love, is when they are invading, when Aang and his group are like returning to the Earth Palace, the Earth Kingdom Palace, and Toph and Aang are using their earth bending in like unison. And it's just all of the different things that they do. They create this elevator to go up the steps. They're doing like all these like blocking moves and creating these like wall shields. I also think about like training that Roku did when he was becoming an earthbender. That's the one I think I would want to do the most. It would be cool to be an airbender. Naturally, I don't know why. I just feel like I would end up being a waterbender, but it's earthbending that I would want to do.
Tim?
Yeah, so I had a funny line that I was going to say during this segment, where I was going to be like, statistically, none of us would be benders, because it turns out benders are few and far between. But then I read something really interesting from the creator of the show saying that actually anyone has the potential to be a bender. So all of the air nomads were benders, 100% of them, because bending is spiritual. So since they were so in touch with their spiritual side, everyone that was an air nomad was a bender. And he even referenced Sokka and said, even Sokka has the ability to waterbend, but he doesn't have like, his spiritual side is untapped, and so he can't waterbend. And I just thought that was
not
really
midi-chlorians.
Well, I just thought that was really interesting insight into the show. That being said, I initially I was thinking waterbending, because like, I don't know, man, it'd be fun to like put a ball of water over someone's head and just fucking watch them drown. And then I was thinking fire, because I was like, well, fire would be fun too. And then earth, I thought, could do the most damage as far as like just instant damage. Just pick up a rock and blast someone in the head with it. I mean, dude, that concussion or dead. And then air is obviously very appealing. And then my next thought, I realized that I'm the Avatar because
I knew that was coming. I knew
all
that
of
was
them,
coming.
all
You
of them
son of a
appeal to me.
bitch.
So yeah, like you guys chose the wrong toys, and I chose the right. I chose the Avatar's toys.
You
So
son of a bitch.
I don't know.
I knew that was coming. No, I think you'd definitely be an air nomad. You'd be like the biggest prick of the air nomads.
Yeah,
But
I'd be pushing kids off the cliff and being like,
Yeah.
"Fly now, bitch."
Oh my god.
You're the one who wouldn't let Aang play with them anymore once they
Yeah,
found out he was
what
the
an ass.
Avatar.
Oh well, I'm glad to know that Jeff would be in the Earth Kingdom with me. So that makes me happy. I always thought you would like firebending though.
I
guess
love Zuko and Iroh, but I don't want to do the firebending now.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
if I'm fighting people, it's one thing, but just like general everyday life. I
do
mean, I
feel
could
like
just be a conveyor belt guy over in Omashu.
Earthbending is almost the balance of all of them too. You know, it has defensive stuff, it has attacking stuff to it as well. But yeah, I just thought that would be the most surprising thing to me, that not a firebender. And Tim, not surprising at all, is Tim trying to claim that he is the Avatar. I had that scouted from far away, my friend. You're such a bastard. Such an absolute bastard. Okay, well, as we wrap up tonight, I just want to sort of finish with, what do you think the lasting legacy of Avatar: The Last Airbender is? And we hit on it at the top of the show in terms of my opinion. It is the fact that it is nuanced for beyond belief for a show geared towards children. It is that idea that it doesn't talk down to kids, it brings them up, it respects their intelligence and their growing intelligence. And I think that is what will really help this show stand the test of time, is that it's a nuanced, deep show that just happens to be for kids, and it's meritorious is a word that I will continue to use for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I think it will prove to be timeless as well. Tim, what do you think the legacy of Avatar: The Last Airbender is?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's the nuance, the subtleties, the sort of grain between right and wrong, black and white. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. At its core, it's a show where I watch and I'm surprised at how I feel as I'm watching it. Like, I'll watch the Earth Kingdom do something bad, and I'm like, no, you know, this challenges my preconceived notions of what I thought the Earth Kingdom was. In the same way that I'm challenged, like when they go to the Fire Nation and they have a good encounter, I'm like, but I remember actually, like, the first time I watched the show, when we met Roku. And I actually thought, like, my brain didn't process until like the end of season 2 or something that he wasn't evil. I kept thinking, Roku is Fire Nation is evil, Roku is evil, why is he helping Aang? My brain didn't really, like, it couldn't really get there, because I was like a junior in high school, and so I was young watching the show, and I was like, it took me a while to come around to, oh, not everyone in the Fire Nation, because we hadn't met anyone else from the Fire Nation at that point. We had only met people that are doing questionable things, you know?
Yeah.
And not outright evil necessarily. But, okay, so to sum it up, I think that's what the show, I think it challenges your preconceived notions, and I think that's extremely important, especially in this world that we live in right now.
Yeah, for developing young minds too. Jeff, what is the legacy of Avatar: The Last Airbender to you?
Well, I mean, I think I'm going to just build upon what the two of you guys are saying, because you're touching all the key points. First off, yeah, it's just a story worth telling. It's a very rich story. I think it's just like a solid fairy tale with a lot of lessons that hopefully children in generations to come will continue to get to revisit and see. One of the reasons why I was always such a big Gundam fan, especially with various series that they would create, is I thought it captured what war is realistically, and that's that there aren't really just good guys on one side, bad guys on the other. And exactly what Tim was just addressing, Fire Nation was full of bad people and good people. Earth Kingdom the same. We ran across that with the Water Tribes as well. I like that every season took them to a new location, and it's like you see a lot of that in season 3 with the everyday people in the Fire Nation, and it's like they're villagers. It's really no different than any sort of Earth Kingdom or town.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think just the realistic approach to how it talks about war, family relationships, inner struggles, just the balance and everything that we're talking about, rising up to, the expectations that are put across you, training, hard work. I mean, there's nothing but a lot of great lessons for really anybody, a child or an adult, to learn from watching this. And it's always worth revisiting too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's been a pleasure revisiting it with you guys tonight. Nerdosphere, I hope you have enjoyed bending with us. That will do it for this edition of the Best Damn Nerd Show, talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender. Have a great week, everyone. And remember, if you're a nerd, always say it loud and say it proud.